West Perth driving test, 1 p.m. The assessor is checking stop lights and indicators if they work. A lot of times they check tyres as well. This time he didn't do the tyres because he knows our cars and that we always bring the cars that are roadworthy. When the assessor sits in the car, they usually have a brief chat with the candidate explaining what's going to take place and how they're going to give instructions, and shortly they're going to be leaving. Always deviate around that white solid line, the stop painted white line. Otherwise you'd lose points for your path, and losing points as soon as you start your driving test is definitely not something that we recommend. Please be advised that this is not a fixed driving test route. They can take you anywhere they like, and this video is not a substitute for practicing, so come down here and practice as much as you possibly can, preferably with your driving instructors. Your private supervisors will not be able to prepare you as well as a driving instructor who specialises in the area. Turning left here. So now we're going to reenact what happened. So this isn't the real test, what you're looking at now. I recreated where she went and she passed with flying colours. Beginning stages of driving assessments are very important, and that's where people lose significant amount of points because they're still nervous. And apart from speeding, flow can be critical because people are overcautious, thinking that, slower they drive and, slower they blend into the traffic, the more points they will score. But it's quite contrary. They lose the most amount of points on flow if they are overcautious, if they check everything twice, 3 times for no reason. And that way they will inconvenience people that are behind them. So you've got to think of other road users. Make sure you don't go above 50 kilometres an hour here, and don't step on a white solid line. You can only cross the white solid line in case of an emergency. Check for pedestrians. If someone's stepping into the pedestrian crossing, just make sure you give way to them. At the next traffic lights, they turned right towards Wellington Street. Some would say that this is pretty unusual driving test route in West Perth because not many people have experienced it. And this is why I decided to shoot this video. If you get stuck at traffic lights, it's a good thing because the longer you stay there, the less opportunities to make potential mistakes there are. At the moment, it looks like we're too far from the car, but it's super wide angle, so it's just seemingly too far, but it's actually not. So now we're turning right here. If they ask you here to turn right at the next set of lights, just end up in the right lane rather than going over to the left lane and then changing, in which case they would mark you for performing 2 manoeuvres instead of 1. When you turn right, it's best to end up in the right lane because a lot of times there's a green arrow in the left lane specifically for people turning left, which is the situation at the moment. So see, everyone's lining up in the right lane and there's a green arrow up there. So you wouldn't want to block the traffic. So just make sure if you've got a red light for straight and if there's a green arrow, to stay in the right lane. Wellington Street is 60 kilometres an hour speed limit. So keep an eye on your speed. Now, if you get a warning, if you get a speed warning, it doesn't mean that you automatically fail your driving assessment. If you accidentally go 5 kilometres above, they're not going to fail you on the spot. You're going to receive a speed warning, but don't freak out. There are always parked cars in the left lane, so it's probably the best idea to stick to the right-hand side lane because there's no point switching lanes every sort of couple of 100 metres or so. From here, they went straight ahead through the first set of lights. I believe it's Collins Street. He asked her to turn right at the next set of lights. So when they ask you to turn right, you need to switch lanes without them saying specifically that you need to change lanes, especially when the right lane is the only turning lane. They'll always give you plenty of notice, but you've got to make sure that you change at least a couple of 100 metres before. It's very likely that you're going to get stuck here as well, so just relax. Think about things that you're doing right here and right now, rather than thinking about car park because you haven't even got there. We can go straight over to the left-hand side lane because there was only one single turning lane to the right, so you can pick any of the 2 lanes. If you lined up in the right and then change separately, they would potentially mark you down for performing 2 manoeuvres instead of 1. Thomas Street is one of the busiest streets in Perth. So if you take this driving test route, you can expect that you can get stuck at least a few times at traffic lights, but don't stress about it. Once again, it's a bonus. So we're turning left here now. We have a few roundabouts here, so you've got to know how to handle roundabouts. You've got to know when to indicate when you exit roundabouts, and also when to start to anticipate the traffic, when you're approaching roundabouts. That is a very important aspect. You can check some of the videos on that topic on on our channel. This is one of many roundabouts on Railway Parade. Slow down significantly, it's slightly downhill, and also it's pretty tight. Anticipate any traffic from the distance and make sure you give way. It's 50 zone here, so don't go above 50. Just practice doing certain speed limits. It feels different when you're doing 50 versus doing 60 or 70. Try it. As you can see, the car in front of us is going really fast. Don't get carried away. So this is a 50 zone, okay? A lot of candidates get anxious thinking that they may have misheard the instruction or didn't hear the instruction at all. If the assessor is not asking you to turn, so it means that you are continuing straight ahead. Don't assume and ask them every 2 seconds, am I going straight? Am I going straight? So, just keep going straight until they say that you need to turn somewhere. Not much to do here other than keep an eye on your speed. We've got another roundabout, slowing down significantly. Give it a good deep look to the right-hand side because opposite direction is within your peripheral vision, pretty much within sort of 200 or 300 meters before you got to the roundabout. Occasionally they might ask you to do reverse parallel parking here if it's not too heavy traffic, but if not here, they're probably going to do it just around the corner. Oftentimes they ask you to turn right just before the traffic lights, which is McCourt Street. So this little street is McCourt Street. Make sure you give way to everybody from the opposite direction. Never underestimate the speed of the oncoming traffic, because if you're doing 0 and they coming at 60 or 50 kilometers an hour, it's a huge difference in speed. This is a street where they can do exercise left someone behind or reverse parallel parking a lot of times. If they ask you to reverse parallel park, make sure you position your car quickly and start your maneuver as quickly as possible without too much delay. We fast forwarded here a little bit so we don't waste time on explaining. We've got separate videos on how to reverse parallel park properly, so check those out. Now we're heading towards Cambridge Street and we are going to do the exercise stopping for shopping at Wembley IGA. So we're turning left here. So what's important here that we have to make sure that we can turn safely without interfering with any traffic. Now, if the left lane is empty, we should go to the left lane. See, there was a car in the right lane which just passed us, but you've got to be very accurate with your path. You can't slightly overshoot and partially go to the right lane because that would potentially cause an accident. As soon as you realise there are parked cars in the left lane, if you happen to be in the left lane, you should change lanes as soon as possible. As I mentioned previously, do not expect the assessor to tell you to change lanes because that's something that they are not going to instruct you to do. Cambridge Street can be extremely busy as well. So if you get stuck at lights, you can have a chat with the assessor, just relax, chill, don't think about, anything negative. Try to ruthlessly eradicate negative thoughts. We're getting closer to Wembley IGA, which is just on the corner of Jersey Street and Cambridge Street. By the way, this is one of the most difficult intersections. There's no green arrow here, so you would have to do this properly. Check out our video on how to turn right at a major intersection without a green arrow. So now we're turning right in the car park. We have a separate video on this car park and what to do here. Be prepared to encounter some sloppy drivers in this car park because that's what people report. Be courteous. Be prepared to give way even if you don't have to. A lot of times they ask people to reverse park on the right hand side. Most of the times they will do it in this section of the car park, which is a lot quieter and there's no exit on this side. So don't stress too much, it's not too difficult. Line up nicely, observe properly and do any adjustments if necessary as you reverse. We fast forwarded it here as well so we don't waste too much time. This is just a driving test route, one of the potential driving test routes, rather than explaining how to reverse park properly. I'll put the entire playlist on how to reverse park in the description of this video. We're turning right towards Cambridge Street again and we are going to turn left on Cambridge Street. So be aware of any traffic coming on your right hand side and also pay attention to any cars that might be parked on the left hand side in the left lane. It's very unlikely that the left lane is clear at any time of the day. Now we're going to go straight over to the right lane because there's clearly a car parked in the left lane. So why would we do 2 maneuvers instead of 1, which you would surely get marked down for? So just ensure that you observe prior to obviously making your turn and committing to turning, and then that way you'll be able to make a better decision. So we'll turn left here to do an exercise, left something behind. So a lot of times they take you to any of these streets of Cambridge Street. This is, I believe, Essex Street. When they say, okay, I'd like you to pull over on the side of the road wherever you feel is safe, it's got to be your choice. They're not going to say exactly where, what and how. They will just give you a simple instruction: stop on the side of the road, or pull over on the side of the road, or park on the side of the road wherever you feel is safe. Don't be indecisive. Take the first available spot, park on the side of the road and wait for the next instruction. We're going to fast forward this one as well. Refer to our videos on exercise left some behind. We've got at least about 8 videos on this particular topic. Now we're turning left back on Cambridge Street, and we're heading back down towards the licensing centre. We're cruising at 60 kilometres an hour. Currently we're in the left lane because there's no parked cars. When you're stopping at the red light, make sure you don't overshoot the wide solid line. Now we seem a little bit further again because it's a super wide angle, and it does look a little bit unrealistic. We've got a car parked. We need to change lanes. They're not going to give you instruction to change lanes. So when you spot the car that's parked on the left-hand side, you've got to indicate and mirror and check the blind spot. Again, if you're changing back to the left lane, do the same. So cruising at 60 kilometers an hour, just watch out for any change in, speed limits. There's emerging traffic on this street very shortly, indicating mirror blind spot roughly where the line runs out. So maybe about 1.5 lengths of your car before the line runs out, you would check your blind spot. A lot of times people check it like 50 meters before, and they come back from the test and they say, I swear I checked it, marked me down for not checking. But it depends when, and where you checked. So if you did it 50 meters before, it's not going to count. So you got to do it roughly where the line expires. If there's a line, if there's no line, just see where the road starts to narrow down. We're heading straight down towards Loftus Street, and shortly we're going to be going back to the Department of Transport. Some of the sections we fast forwarded. The test usually goes for about 35 minutes roughly, and if you come back sooner, if you come back like in 10, 15, 20 minutes, it's never a good sign. So currently we're in the left lane, but if the assessor asks you to turn right at the next set of lights, it's best to change lanes at least about a couple of 100 metres before you get to the traffic lights. Depending on the traffic, if it's really busy traffic, you would even do it a little bit sooner. Now, in this situation, we're going to stick to the left turning lane out of the 2 turning lanes, unless the assessor asks you to turn right shortly after. In this situation, we're going to be turning left after we turn right here. So there will be 2 lanes where you can go from this lane. You can go to the far left lane here because the left turning lane could have gone to the center lane and the far left lane, and the right lane only could have gone to the far right. Now here we're turning left back on Roy Street, and you shouldn't worry about cyclists in the cyclist lane unless you overtook one. We always get questions, what about cyclists? Should I check the blind spot as I'm transiting to the added lane? Not unless you slow down significantly. Surprisingly, a lot of candidates miss pedestrians. Watch out for pedestrians. Any time when you're turning, even if there's no pedestrian crossing, give way to pedestrians when you're turning, okay? We've passed the first entry towards the Department of Transport. So this is the exact route that this particular assessor took this young lady for her driving assessment. At the next set of lights, we're going to be turning left. Once again, watch out for pedestrians here, especially during the peak hour traffic. So they turned left here and proceeded towards the Department of Transport's car park. I want to mention that when you turn left here, that they may take you on the freeway as well. So if they do, it's not going to be a long drive. They usually ask you to exit at the next exit, which is Vincent Street in West Perth. So if you lined up in the center lane with a straight arrow, that would take you to freeway. During this assessment, they went on Trude Street and returned back to the DVS. There are parked cars on the left-hand side a lot of times, so it's best to stick to the right-hand side lane if there are parked cars. Also, there's a merge, and make sure that you don't indicate too soon because there's a street coming up on the left, so you might mislead somebody. So now when you pass this street, you would indicate left and merge quickly, but slow down significantly here because it's 90-degree corner, and a lot of times people fail literally in the last seconds of the driving assessment. This is back to the real driving test. So that's when they came back. So the car park was pretty full at this stage, and it was about 20 to 2, so the test started at about 1, maybe they left about 3 minutes past 1. So she's reversing. A lot of times they ask you to park forward there, but this time the assessor decided to ask this young lady to reverse park. She had to correct it, but still she scored every point there. So she ended up a little bit on an angle, but still assessor did say per completion of her test that she's capable, she sees things, she didn't let anything important slip her eye, and she passed with almost clean sheet. As always, please feel free to ask any questions in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.